Why coaching cannot handle real feedback. How a workplace program reached into my home and rewrote my family. The coaching room recently posted about leadership and authenticity. They claimed that leaders need to hear uncomfortable truths rather than create cultures where people perform the right answers. It is a nice sentiment. It is also painfully ironic, because the coaching program that entered my life through my partner's workplace created the exact opposite of what they preach. Inside the coaching bubble, there was authenticity, insight, breakthroughs, and alignment. Outside that bubble, there was silence, confusion, and a complete refusal to acknowledge the fallout. This was not something she sought out on her own. It was introduced through her job, framed as leadership development. Yet the effects did not stay in the workplace. The ideology spilled into our home and reshaped the foundation of our marriage and family. And when the consequences unfolded, the coaching world did not treat it as harm. They treated it as confirmation that their system works. She admitted it clearly. Without the program, she would not have left. I asked her directly whether she would have left our marriage if she had not taken that job, completed integral leadership, and stepped into coaching culture. Her answer was simple. No. There was no talk of years of hidden resentment or a long decline. No slow drift. No quiet unhappiness waiting to be addressed. The shift came fast and came after immersion in coaching ideology. It was not organic. It was triggered, reinforced, and validated by a system that reframes detachment as growth and destabilization as transformation. The coaching narrative became the explanation for every change in her behavior, her values, and her decisions. The program shaped the lens she used to examine her entire life, including our marriage. She used workplace coaching as therapy, and no one stopped it. When she began struggling emotionally, she took her private issues into the workplace coaching environment. She spoke to her boss about our marriage, where her coach Headley's own marriage was discussed. Why was that even happening? Why was a staff member encouraged to explore personal trauma through a corporate end-of-week catch-up with her boss? She then brought forward a coaching session after discussing her struggle with Rob, who she had quickly had an affair with, which was completely out of character. Once again, coaching was used as therapy without psychological training, oversight, or boundaries. No one said this is outside the scope of leadership development. No one said she needed to speak to a qualified therapist. Coaching filled the role because the ideology is built on the idea that everything is a mindset issue waiting for a breakthrough. They openly push the idea that the ideology should be used at home. In a workplace video, she and Alex Murphy, her managing director, talked about how integral leadership was designed to be used both at work and at home. They wanted the program to be all-encompassing, something you apply in every part of life, a lifelong learning achievement. It was said casually, as if it were harmless. But when someone starts applying workplace coaching frames to their marriage, it can unravel the entire structure of a family. Leadership metaphors are not designed for intimate relationships. Quadrants and frames are not tools for navigating commitment, loyalty, or conflict. Yet the program was promoted as something that should inform every part of living. That message landed, and the damage followed. The moment I questioned the ideology, I was blocked. I once asked Headley a direct question about their greenhouse analogy. I asked whether he believed it was appropriate to teach a metaphor that could dismantle the structures of a marriage. It was a fair question given the reality I was dealing with. He did not answer. He blocked me on Facebook. Then he blocked me on LinkedIn. So much for radical candour. So much for psychological safety. So much for the authenticity they preach. Their behavior revealed the truth. They do not want uncomfortable feedback. They do not want their methods questioned. They do not want to hear from the people harmed by their ideology. They only want the curated version of authenticity that happens inside their own room. When the end of my marriage was treated as evidence the program worked, one of the hardest moments came when Alex Murphy praised what had happened. He framed the collapse of my marriage as evidence that integral leadership does not just work in a professional context. It works at home. It works on relationships. It works on identity. It works everywhere. He spoke about it as if it were a triumph, as if the destruction of a long-term partnership proved the power of the program. He brought the program into the business because he believed in its ideology, having used the coaching room before in a personal capacity. A captain's pick in choosing this as their leadership and development program with no seeming oversight from board members of possible conflicts of interest. There was no acknowledgement of the impact on me or my sons. There was no recognition that a workplace coaching program had overstepped into the most personal part of our lives. It was spoken about as validation, a demonstration of reach and effectiveness. Now I understand how narrowly coaching defines success. If the person inside the program feels powerful or aligned, that is the only metric. Everyone else is invisible. The people left picking up the emotional pieces do not count. Coaching celebrates the transformation it causes and ignores the destruction it leaves behind. Inside the coaching bubble, she was celebrated for her clarity, her decisiveness, and her alignment. The narrative rewarded her for adopting the ideology. It validated every detachment as growth and every withdrawal as authenticity. Outside that bubble, the reality was very different. I watched a stable marriage collapse. My sons watched their world shift. Our family absorbed the consequences of someone else's theory of development. The coaching world did not want to hear that. It did not ask about it. It did not consider it. Because it does not count harm as data. It only counts transformation as success. And that is the fundamental problem. Coaching culture is built to applaud what happens inside the room and ignore what happens outside it. Their leadership message reveals their own blind spot. They ask leaders whether their presence invites authenticity or demands a performance. The irony could not be sharper. The coaching industry demands performance. It demands that clients perform insight, perform breakthroughs, perform alignment, and perform gratitude for the tools that supposedly set them free. Authenticity ends the moment someone speaks a truth the system does not want to hear. Like a family broken by a workplace coaching program. Like children left bewildered by ideological justifications. Like a partner asking uncomfortable questions and receiving block buttons instead of answers. Coaching culture is not built to handle real feedback. It is built to protect the ideology. And until it is willing to examine the consequences of its own work, any talk about authenticity is just another performance inside the bubble.